Is this the best cornerback of his generation?
Oh. That's a tough question because you got Richard Sherman, of course, holding it down in the Pacific Northwest. You got Patrick Peterson, who's always in the conversation. And then, of course, Darrelle Revis. So you look at those three guys, three different types. Patrick Peterson is the athletic type. You know, he's the one that can do everything, play offense, defense, catch the ball, punt return. Then you look at Darrelle Revis, you know, very cerebral, not as tall as Richard Sherman, not as aggressive at the line of scrimmage, but can jump on every route because of his high IQ. Richard Sherman, though, lengthy. He gets the knock because he plays one side of the field, and he said so many times over and over, I can't help the system I'm in. But him at the line of scrimmage, him disrupting wide receivers, and his ability to be right next to the wide receiver while the quarterback is making a read and making it seem as if the wideout isn't open, which is why they never throw at him, that's one of the best, not just of his era, but of all times. And that's the reason why he doesn't get thrown at a ton, because a quarterback's going to look Richard Sherman's way, but he always sees Richard Sherman's within an arm length, either grabbing or pushing the wide receiver. So to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I'm going to have to say yes. When you look at the interceptions since he got in the league,
32 more than anybody.
In the PBUs and the pass breakups. That's a stat that people don't really appreciate because they oftentimes want to see guys pick it off and take it to the house. But pass breakups are just as important, and you rarely have them that footage of Richard Sherman getting beat completely bad over and over again. And some of these other great DBs, you'll have that occasionally on the footage.
I didn't play in the sport. I certainly didn't play wide receiver. You know, it's always this debate of, like, is Deion the greatest of all time?
Yeah.
And you'll hear some people, Redskins fans, say, Darrell Green was better than Deion when they played at the same time. Like, well, he's not the best of all time. Darrell Green was better. So you're never going to win every argument with this. But I will say this. The story of Richard Sherman, to me, is better than any of these guys. And the production for where he was drafted, obviously a fifth-round pick, comes out of Stanford, wasn't considered one of these top guys, goes on to have the most interceptions during his career, and he was a cultural icon. A cultural icon in that he brought a different flavor to football, and he did it when he was taunting Tom Brady. He did it when he was taunting Michael Crabtree. He did it when he was speaking with Aaron Andrews, and then he turned that into, wait a second, all eyes on me. I'm going to be the best corner in football in the next few years, was an all-pro. I am saying, as much as we love Revis, and Revis gets all this love and is credited to Revis Island, Richard Sherman, to me, is if I had to think about that generation, who was the corner, Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman leading the way, and with all the antics that he had and with all the great comments that he had, with all the great play, I'm going with Sherman, best of his generation.
Every time this comes up, people on Twitter and on the radio, they like to say he doesn't follow the receiver backs. That's filled a million segments. I'm not talking about that. I want to talk about one moment where I think is the best I've ever seen, at least of this generation. Week 1 of 2014, they're at home. The Packers are in town. Aaron Rodgers is there. They didn't go to Sherman's side at all. And I'm talking Rodgers, who is as fearless as they come. Revis was visibly bored during the game. Sherman was visibly bored during the game. He approaches Rodgers after the game, as he's prone to do, and says, "You were avoiding me, weren't you?" Like, right in his face. I don't know how Rodgers answered, but visibly watching him, it did look like he was avoiding him. The biggest compliment I can ever give you is that Aaron Rodgers, I think, is the best player in the league, would not throw over to Sherman's way. He's the best of the generation.